For our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction.
A temperature gradient like that with any natural hydrological cycle, that is engineered top to bottom.
So explain to me what I'm looking at and how this show proves that this is an engineered weather pattern.
If you went back 20 years, you would never, or 20 years or further, you would never find anything that even remotely resembled that map. Weather moves in the northern hemisphere from west to east because of the Coriolis effect of the planet. How can it be record warm in the west and record cold in the east? That's patently wrong. So they high pressure dome with frequency transmission facilities, which are weapons of mass destruction like HAARP in Alaska. They can superheat the ionosphere, creates a massive expanding bulge in the atmosphere up and down. That creates a high pressure dome in the northern hemisphere, which spins the upper level wind currents clockwise. So picture that red spot of above normal or record high temperatures as being a high pressure dome that rotates clockwise, rotating all the moisture from the Pacific around it, or low pressure zone below it, rotating below it. So they're spinning the moisture around the west, chemically nucleating it. They're seeding this cloud moisture with climate engineering aircraft, the kind that dump 100 tons in a single payload. And those endothermic reacting elements, in many cases, because this moisture is now so warm, it's reaching the surface, Jimmy, before it sets up. And that's why you're about to have massive ice storms, hugely destructive ice storms, because these materials aren't setting up until they reach the surface. And again, that's not natural either, to have an ice storm transition zone between the record warm migrating moisture and the eventual various forms of frozen chemically nucleated material that fall.
I want Canada to step up and participate in saying, what does the new world order look like?
We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly.
The problem is we are going to a digital currency society where cash will be gradually eradicated. When we go to this society, we have to really think about the implications. Do we want a society in which our digital money is under complete surveillance and complete control, where if you go to the wrong protest, or if you support the wrong political campaign, or if you make a payment to the wrong person or receive money from the wrong person, suddenly your money disappears. It's no longer yours anymore. It's frozen, it's seized, it's gone.
If you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built might be small. Many people in their 40s and 50s discover that their investments have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. Listen, protecting what you've already built is just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping you reduce risk by adding physical gold to your portfolio. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is, what is today? Tuesday, right? January 27th, 2026. We're going out of the matrix into prime reality. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Ronnie, our wonderful moderator in Texas, who's also braving some freezing weather as we're really, really braving some cold weather here. And I want to begin this show by saying this is not a doom and gloom show whatsoever. It's not an end of the world show, apocalypse, or anything like that. We're going into some fundamental thinking, some fundamental exploration about what is going on and why this world can't be fixed, and frankly, it shouldn't be fixed. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the first distinction that we need to make to really comprehend what we're talking about here, the distinction between what people perceive to be the earth and what people perceive to be the world. In most conversations, those two terms are interchanged as though they mean the same thing, but they don't. The earth is the natural system as we find it when we arrive here. That is something that functions in and of itself, whether we do something or not. Those natural systems function. There is an order to those things. All we do is mess with it, by the way. The world is anything that we humans created in forms of systems, starting with nations and governments, even in small communities. Anything that is a system outside of the natural system that we agree upon or are forced to agree upon and then use or participate in. So that's the world. The world is an artificial structure. And you don't have to be a simulation theorist to know that. The world is an artificial structure. So many folks in our wonderful community, including you, including us at times, we have this need, and we see the flaws, the problems, the all everything that looks really to be going wrong, and we want to fix it. Well, the first thing about a fix is that a fix is a quick solution where you look at the symptom and you want to remove the symptom from the equation. That's a fix. And that can be fairly quick. So if you look at the headlines today, and it doesn't matter what day it is, but the headlines today, you see a lot of chaos, disarray, violence, anger, rage all over the world. Doesn't matter where. Naturally, you see it where you live the most. That's clear. But also beneath that, you see a sense of, in many people, confusion, melancholia, by the way, which today we call depression and all other kinds of things, a senselessness in things, in some folks, a hopelessness, a directionlessness. And all of these are symptoms of the world that we live in. So a lot of people go out and try to fix those symptoms, and I don't blame them for it. And at times I'm exactly the same way, but it cannot fix the world. The same with the leaders, some of which, in small positions or big positions, some of which go into those kinds of positions with their heart in the right place. And they find themselves, whether because they were naive or ignorant, they find themselves in a world that is completely nuts and upside down, because whatever we see in the world, politics is magnified, right? Politics and government magnifies the insanity because everything is upside down in those spheres, and they soon find out that it can't be fixed. And so what they do is try to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, so to speak. And yes, even the Titanic story was fake, the way that we heard it, but you get the metaphor. So they're trying to push and pull stuff around to see if rearranging it will make it better. It never really does. Some things are better for the short term, but ultimately, it keeps getting worse. And there's a reason for it. And this is where the work really begins, and this is what we really should be looking at. The world, meaning all systems that the world today has, everything that's organized and structured, and from commerce to trade to medicine to science to all the disciplines that are systems, were initially birthed, initially conceived in an already inverted state of consciousness, meaning the entities, the beings, maybe people, we don't know, that created those systems to begin with already had an inverted state of consciousness. They were already out of balance and out of harmony. And there are these first principles, if that something that was birthed from disorder cannot move into order. That is the fake story that the Big Bang Theory that was pushed on the world tries to tell people. It's order from chaos. That is the motto of the global cult, if you will. That's how they operate. They produce chaos, and then they want to make their new order from that chaos. But this is not how anything in reality actually functions. So, because this entire world, the foundation of it, was built from a state of imbalance or disorder, that's what it infused over time into the people participating in the world, which it wasn't everyone in the beginning, because people lived in their own fairly natural systems before that, where they knew how to observe the natural order and follow it. So they weren't fighting against that natural order of things. They weren't trying to change it. They went with it. And so there were those, and far back, at least in our perception of time, there was something like a very beautiful state, a natural state, a harmonious state, if you will, a balanced state of being, in which creation expanded through harmony and balance and order. And we could go into various disciplines of thinking, of spirituality, of religion, to ask the question, well, what happened? What brought the disorder? That's not the point of this show today. The point is that disorder came, and our world as we see it today is a chain reaction that is coming to the very last chains, if you will, until the reaction sort of explodes, if you will, and resets itself. So this is how the world has become a very, very disorderly place where there's not a lot of balance. So what can we do about it? If we can't fix it, which we can't, literally can't fix it, because it was conceived from imbalance and disorder, then we have to ask a bigger question. What would happen if we bring it back to ourselves? Because we grew up in this world, and our parents did, and their parents did, and so forth. There is, in virtually all families that I've ever seen, there is an imbalance, a disharmony, things are out of whack, okay? And the closer or the further down that we break it to the individual, the better it becomes, because that's where we have power to do something. So fixing doesn't work. Healing, a vastly different principle. Healing means that we bring it back to us. So when we begin to heal, and healing happens on all levels, it's a spiritual, it's a psychological, it's a mental, it's a physical process. So it has to happen on all those levels. But when that begins to happen, order and balance and harmony begin to come back into our lives. When we heal, our relationships begin to heal. Those who can't heal, because let's just say the other person is so out of balance and does not want to do the same thing, those tend to end. But other relationships, based on that healing that you've done, begin. Relationships tend to improve and expand in a state of healing. Our entire outlook on life, who we are, what it means to be human, all that begins to heal and bring itself back into order. Now, when we do that on an individual level and in our family level, which every family has a natural order, it's a system. A family is a system that has a natural order, and that order can be observed, that order can be maintained, or that order can be disturbed, and the consequences are according. So when that order is observed, every single time it presents itself in the same way. This is what family constellation and systemics work can see. So a family order, when it is in harmony, presents itself in the exact same way every single time. So there is a natural system that's already there. We didn't put it there. It is there. When we are whole and healed on all levels, we tend to maintain that order rather than disturb it. When we don't disturb that order but maintain it, then those who come through us, our children, tend to be in a state of balance and order as well. Not every day, but as a general theme. And things begin to rearrange themselves, first within us, then within our families, our relationships, and so forth, because we go closer to balance, closer to harmony, which has a reflection into everything that we are and do. So then imagine a village of 1,000 people, and that village, just like any other village, has problems and chaos, and there's abuse, and there's violence, and there's drugs, maybe in smaller proportions because it's only 1,000 people, but a certain group in those 1,000 will have severe problems. A certain group within those 1,000 people will have quite challenging problems, and a certain group will have smaller problems. Almost no group of 1,000 people in a village will have no problems in life. We could go and analyze their families. Are they, are they intact? Are families together? Are both parents present? All that, and we could find very similar patterns. So if in a village of 1,000 people, those 1,000 people would come together and say, hey, we need to do something, and they would actually find the right tools to begin healing, you could fairly quickly, relatively speaking, begin to see a tremendous improvement in the life of that village. Now, they wouldn't go and start by fixing the systems and fixing the roads and fixing the government, because they would all acknowledge that they are out of balance themselves. And how can people that are out of balance create something better or fix something when they themselves aren't in balance? How can they create something in balance when they're out of balance? So when they bring themselves into balance first, now the things that they create are created from balance and are naturally in balance themselves. So this is, if you think it through, this is how a village of 1,000 people would relatively quickly birth something very different, a very different way of life, a very different way of communicating with each other, doing things with each other. And because of healing, the symptoms of a sick world, greed, abuse, jealousy, violence, all those things would begin to first calm down, slow down, and eventually disappear. Not because of some strict government policy, not because new laws were passed or things were banned, but because the root cause was addressed, because the root problem was addressed, which is imbalance on all levels. And when that is addressed, it's a chain reaction. It's a butterfly effect into everything. And so when we hold on so passionately to the idea that there is some version of the world that we live in that was better, and that we need to return to that version, bring it back, or have a revival, we are not telling the truth to ourselves and to others. We're just saying there was a version of insanity, or a version of invertedness, or a version of imbalance that felt a little less severe than this one. There was some version that felt a little better than this. But that's not an improvement. That's basically just a quick fix, and it never works. So hear me out when I say that it is fear that is holding people back from going on that healing journey. And I'll tell you what the fear is. It's the fear of losing the familiar, of losing what we know, the fear that we will stop wanting the things that we want now, the fear that we will stop prioritizing the things that we prioritize now. There are so many people that are, let's just say, they have found a way to do well financially by following some ruthless protocols in this world. So they build some wealth, but they realize that they're lacking greatly in other areas, and that they're not fulfilled because the money itself doesn't bring them the fulfillment they thought it would. So they they do the self-help journeys, and they go to seminars, and they go to this, and eventually they meet someone who gives it to them straight and says, brother or sister, what you need is healing. You don't need to change your mindset. You don't need to have a new concept or new habits. You need to go to the root and heal. And then that person said, what will happen if I do that? Well, you might become gentler. You might become more forgiving with yourself and others. You might feel like you don't have to chase all the time. You might have a greater connection to God or spirit or source, whatever you want to call it. And then that person says to themselves, well, hell, my job, my profession, what I do is based on me being a killer. It's based on me being a shark. If I do that healing stuff, I can't be a shark anymore. And very often they walk away because they're afraid that they lose that edge. And this is how this whole thing keeps moving forward and forward and forward. Now we're talking openly, and the actions are accordingly. We're talking about a massive kinetic world conflict, war, with the most atrocious weapons that you can imagine, and some that you can't imagine because they're secret, right? And nobody can tell you why. Why? What's the end goal here? What does it mean? When some leader of some country says we need to be the predominant power, we need to lead, we need to maintain whatever it is that they're saying. Why? What's the why? What's the end goal here? What state do we want to be in? How do we want to, why are we doing these things? And they can't tell you. The best that they can come up with, the other guy is doing it too, so we have to do it as well. And the reason why they can't come up with it is because they're all in an equal state of imbalance themselves. And they're thrown into a position where they need to make 1,000 decisions every day and try to put band-aids on things and fix things here and fix things there and solve a problem here and solve a problem there. They never have the time to think big picture or to feel big picture or to heal. And so when we look to these leaders and we think that they can somehow solve these problems for us, they can't. Even if they wanted to, even if that was their real intention, they can't. They literally can't. The best that they could do, if they were healed themselves, is point to that fact and say, this is what the world needs. Not more trauma, not more fear, not more intimidation, not more anger and violence and provocation and fights, but healing. What they maybe know or maybe don't know, I don't know, is that when that really begins to happen, the world as we see it today crumbles. But not because it's destroyed, but because the energy moves out of it. Because when you heal and when you're on a healing journey, you can't hurt others anymore. Because you don't believe any longer that that's just how it works. You can't step over the other guy to get ahead because you simply don't feel that that is right or good or true. So you withdraw from it. And most people fear that then everything collapses and we're worse off. When the opposite is the truth. The thing that is the unknown is what is created in its stead. And we can't know. You can't know what kind of thinking, creativity, expanded consciousness, or awareness you will move into when you begin to heal and bring things back to balance. You can't know. And that is exactly why the world acts the way it does, because of the fear of this unknown. And we do things that make no sense on any level, and we continue to do them because of the fear of the unknown. So no, this world can't be fixed, and it shouldn't be fixed. It was never a good world to begin with. It doesn't matter if you look at fake history or real history, as if you are one of those researchers that actually goes and looks deeper, they both don't show very good pictures. They actually both show pretty horrific pictures. And when we move out of that blame and guilt and shame cycle, and when we move back to healing, we also move back to truth. So when people say we're ascending to 5D, we are moving into prime Earth, none of this happens involuntarily. It happens because humans make new choices. And then their life begins to ascend into a higher state of expression. It does. Life begins to become better. We just don't know how good it can get because we tend to stop. We tend to get afraid and make a step back. Oh, I need to keep my foot in this. I need to keep this. I need to keep that. Christine had a beautiful, beautiful image a year ago or so. We were driving through a neighborhood and it was college football season, and everybody was flying their college football flags. It's like the most important thing in the world for some folks, and they were flying their flags. And I get it, you cheer, it's all good. And then we talked about how much energy goes into that, how much lifetime is invested in that, how people travel to games and buy the merch and buy the tickets and sit in front of the TV and have fantasy football teams, and like how much lifetime is invested in that, how much passion goes into it, how much all energy goes into it. And she said, imagine if those people would put just a fraction of that energy that they're ultimately investing in distractions, because that's a distraction, if they would just put a fraction of that energy into their healing, what flags would they be flying? And she came up with the, she came up with the Tennessee Healers. I thought I'd love that. And we imagined what it would look like if every house would fly a Healers flag, and just to show, oh, this is a home where we focus on this. This is a house where we, we actually put our attention on this. We realize it needs to happen. We're fostering it. I love that image, and we talked about it in our inspired community on Locals. And this is where our thinking, our attention, and our love should really be going. We're at the end of something, and we all feel it. Like we're at the end of something, and the end of something is always the beginning of something else. Nothing in this universe just vanishes. It transcends into something else. And because we're at the end of something, it's like we really don't have anything to lose here. This is going away either way. It's changing. So the old is going away. And this is the best time. The best time to ask ourselves, what would really make a difference? And when I say healing, it's a journey, okay? It's not a destination. But I can tell you this, to bring this to an end before we go into Q&A, we're going to do a little Q&A here. The journey of suffering is, it begins with, let's say, when you come into this life, almost everybody in their first years has some sort of traumatic experience or more of them. It doesn't always have to be abuse. It can be something else. But there's a trauma, and then suffering begins. And the suffering lasts from the moment when it happens, and then we replay memories, and then our subconscious pushes it down, and we go through all these phases. And the suffering lasts until the moment that we make a decision to heal. Now, by making that decision, a good chunk of that suffering starts to soften. And then when we make the decision and say, well, I'm going to look for help to heal, however that may look, and you actually seek and find that help and accept it and begin that healing journey, the journey of suffering has officially ended and the journey of healing has officially begun. The journey of suffering can be this long, this long, this long, doesn't matter. The journey of healing, it's much, much shorter. And the big chunk happens really fast. Okay. The big chunk doesn't take a very long time. It happens really fast. Smaller chunks follow, in the days and weeks and months after, but life begins to be very different. And so I can, I look at whichever country I look at doesn't matter. If I look for 5, 10, 15 minutes, what's going on, it's all the same. It's all the same. Because the world was built on the same imbalance everywhere. And we, in our healed and natural, beautiful state, we can awaken from the slumber that we were in and withdraw our energy from it. That's all that it requires, really, to end in this way. Trust me, we don't have to fight it. We don't have to, rebel against it. We just withdraw our energy from it. But that can only happen in a healed state. Everything else feels like, feels very dark, feels very impossible, feels very dystopian. But from a healed state, it's a completely different story. Alrighty. With that said, if you guys have questions, and I don't know if I announced it earlier, but we thought we're going to do a little bit of a live Q&A here. So if you have any questions, please put them in all caps, and Christine's going to pick them intuitively as she always does. If you have any questions, if not, then I'm just going to sip my water and sit here. It can be critical questions. You can, you don't have to be friendly if you don't want to. It's all good. All righty. JV Trafney. Traff, New York. I'm just assuming. Christine, a while ago, Jean made a slight prediction that something would occur involving trons. Still to date, he has never followed up on that. Then the trains. Then the Ohio incident happened. Well, what up? Oh, that was, yeah. I'm going to take that down. So I remember vaguely a couple years ago. You're talking about Palestine, Ohio, right? A couple years ago. I think I came out of a meditation, but I saw a train. I saw something big happening with the train. It was so left field. It just came to me. I wasn't thinking about trains or anything like that. And I remember putting it in a post that something big with trains will happen. And shortly after, Ohio Palestine happened, and really there was not more to it from my side of the story other than I saw the flash of the train and I posted it. But that was really, I didn't have anything more. I didn't have any insider info or anything like that. It was just an intuitive but very quite powerful flash that I had. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that clarifies it. No mystery other than that. Are there any other questions? How do we work with our communities to help others heal? That's a good question. So one of the biggest things that we have observed is that a lot of times, and I'm not saying that's you, but that is a common theme. A lot of times people have a very good mental concept of what healing looks like, and they read the books and they watch the podcasts and interviews, documentaries, whatever it is, and they mistake that for healing. A like a shamanic mushroom journey can be very expansive. So I hear. I have never seen it take care of the healing. I think it was probably a part of it for some people, but it can take care of the healing. So what I'm trying to say is that the best way to inspire people is to be that shining example where it can't be denied, right? So if your life is full of chaos and randomness and constant struggles and challenges, then you will have a very hard time convincing anyone that they should heal too, like you healed, because they will look at your life and say, well, if this is what healing looks like, I don't want any of it. So we inspire most by being that example. That's the like everybody knows the feeling of you spend some time with someone and the way that they are, how they speak, their energy, their peace, their thinking, it's inspiring to you, and you think, "Oh, I want some of that. That's how I want to feel. Like that feels amazing." And so then you ask, "What did you do? How did you get there?" And this is what inspires people. When somebody has a light that's turned on because they have done work, and some people call it shadow work, it's part of the healing, that is inspiring. And so, in other words, if you want to inspire your community and you are that shining example, it will almost come up naturally when you converse with people, when you talk with them about your journey, share your story. I think that has to date always been the most powerful way. It usually beats convincing people or talking them into it. It's being that healed version of you that really inspires folks. AK Froggy, how can we put health issues in perspective and keep focus on wider issues? It's a challenging question because I don't know where where sort of the baseline of that question is, but um there's no so it's become so clear that there is no difference between wider issues and health issues. So everything is connected, absolutely everything. So what happens, to bring it back to the healing journey, what happens is the more in order and balance you are, the better you can see truth, because when you're in harmony, that is truth, that is the truth. So the more balanced that you are, the easier you can see truth. So then the things that you didn't admit to yourself, the things that you didn't want to see, the things that you ignored, you now see them clearly, and you can see the problem and you can see the solution. So you then become a walking, living solution in your own life and also through all the actions that you take. So that is what I meant by any wider issue can only be tackled when the smaller issues or the more individual issues were first brought into a more balanced state. We create what we are, not what we want or think about. That's what we create. We create what we are. The energy of our being creates. And that's why two people could build, two tables from the same wood with the same instructions. And the tables that stand in front of you will feel vastly different depending on who they were while they were building it. Sean, your thoughts on the Board of Peace? So this new international organization, if you will, that was created by, at least publicly, that's what we know, by President Trump. There's generally a Board of Peace in the name sounds great. So that's where whatever has peace in its name, it's always something that I definitely wouldn't reject. My I'll come back exactly to the main point here. When peaceful, harmonious, balanced beings sit on the board of peace, that is going to be one wonderful organization. When the people sitting on the board of peace, regardless of what they say or write or proclaim, are angry people, vengeful people, jealous people, insecure people, traumatized people, when that's who sits on the board of peace, when those people that have those kinds of feelings and emotions sit on a board of peace, it doesn't matter what the name is. It can't be a board of peace. So that's and I can't evaluate from where I'm sitting who is and isn't. Like I can't say who has done the healing work. I can make assumptions based on what I see and hear. And that is the the success prognosis, if you will. One of the ways to look at it is to look at past actions, past decisions of the people on the board of peace. And then you can sort of think, if nothing fundamentally changed in that person's life, if they haven't fundamentally done something different or healed or gone to therapy or done anything, usually the past becomes the future. But as a general idea, any organization that seeks to bring peace to the people should be at least looked at and at least given a chance. Do you believe in principalities, demons attacking us? Do you think angels protect us? Well, aren't demons also angels? I mean, aren't they fallen angels? So, let's step away from the word and the words, because the words were all given meaning, and they also mean something different to many people. So it's hard to sort of go, oh, this is an angel, this is a demon, and this is what that means. But principalities do attach themselves to us when we are out of balance. So, in other words, if a person likes to drink spirits, they named it spirits for a reason. Almost always, if not always, when you look at that person's aura, you will find holes in that aura, literally holes, and you will find energies attached to those holes. Now, you can call them demons, you can call them dark angels, you can call them, archons, whatever you want to call them, but that is the truth. Because we have an energy field around us, and when that energy field is sick or is out of balance, out of whack, because we're out of balance, out of whack, energies can attach themselves to us. We can also at some point in our lives make agreements. Maybe something really bad happened and we plead and we're just looking for relief, and we don't care where it comes from, and we beg, and we in those states can make an agreement. How do you remember, maybe you were in a situation where a loved one was sick or in an accident, and you prayed, and you thought you prayed to the one creator, but you prayed and you said, if you let my loved one live, I'll do anything, I'll give anything. Okay, so those things mean something. When you express something like that, you are making an agreement, not knowingly, not consciously, but you are. So that's just one example of how something can happen, a transfer, a contract can happen with beings of not so good intentions. And those agreements, just like they're made, they can be unmade, right? They can be, you can sever those ties, you can cut those ties, but that has to happen consciously. You have to make a choice to cut all known and unknown agreements that don't serve your highest and the highest good of all. So, that's just too, but yeah, absolutely, that is a reality. What plants are you growing for the apocalypse? Well, we're not growing plants for the apocalypse. We're just growing plants for meals. so, the garden plot was created. It's a nice size plot, and we're going to have anything from all kinds of salads. We love salads. We're going to have potatoes. We're going to have lots of herbs. There's going to be an herb section in there. We're going to do peas and beans, and we're going to do cabbage. We're going to do probably some peppers. We're going to do tomatoes, lots of tomatoes to grow beautifully. So it's going to be a very, very beautiful and colorful garden. But we're not growing it for the apocalypse. We're growing it to eat. Is that it? No more questions? If that was the last question, I want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and for an evening show. I kind of enjoy doing them every now and then, and maybe when you get a chance, rewind this show, go back to the beginning, and think about this, and allow yourself, give yourself permission to imagine if your life right now is very difficult, if you keep running into the same challenges, if you feel like you've just gotten the short end of the stick in life and everything has just been difficult, there's no such thing as a short end of the stick. And to feel guilty or ashamed or blame yourself will not help. But to give yourself permission to start on your healing journey. And that's the first thing, people think it's such a big, big thing to do. It's just a decision. And when you make it, and when you really make it, and you say, this is it, I am healing now, I'm starting to heal. Usually opportunities arrive, or something comes your way that helps you, or someone, and we point people to some of the places that we know and trust and that have worked in our lives. One is thejourney.com. We're not affiliated, by the way, but this is a process that has done so many people so much good. A lot of people in our audience too. And then family constellation and family systemics, which is not only a wonderful, wonderful healing modality, but it's such an eye-opening thing to experience and learn about the natural order of things and the natural order of a family and what that feels like, and how incredible that can be. And thank you, my love. This is as a support system. So FLFE, we talk about it a lot because I don't say this lightly, but I say it with full conviction in my heart. It's one of the most important services in the world today, as a support system. And so, for those of you who don't know what that is or how it works, just very quickly, an analogy. So, over the last few days, we've lost power here, with this ice storm. Tons of broken trees and lines that have come down, and so we were without power, and hence without heat in our house. And we made a conscious plan on how we're going to deal with this, because it could have been weeks. We don't know. So we conserved, like, generator energy and whatnot, and we just used our fireplace to heat. So when you don't have heat on in the house, then you have to do a lot of work constantly to keep warm, whether that's moving, exercising, whether that's burning firewood and carrying it in and feeding the stuff. So it's just a lot of labor. Nothing bad or wrong about it, but it is labor. When you have an automated heating system, then you don't think about that and you do whatever you do during your day. That's just something that runs in the background and keeps you warm. And FLFE is like a heating system for consciousness. It doesn't do the work for you, it supports you. So, what I mean by that is if you were to meditate 3, 4, 5 hours with a group of people in your home every day, you could raise and maintain a high consciousness field in your home at almost all times. It, it would be a high consciousness field. But you would have to continually do that and keep up with that. And while many people meditate, very few meditate for many hours a day with others in their home. And FLFE is a consciousness, non AI, consciousness quantum technology that maintains a high consciousness field in your home. It's like a heating system for consciousness. It doesn't raise your consciousness, but it raises the field that you live in, which brings many benefits to you when you interact with that field consciously. Everything that you do in it tends to be more harmonious. Your healing journey, when you begin it, is supported through that field. Your meditative practices and prayers are elevated because of that field. Your relationships, your arguments tend to, subside easier. One of the things that I've noticed is in the last 3 or so years, almost I think almost 4 years, but since we've had FLFE, I wasn't able to hold a grudge any longer, and I was never a big grudge holder, but I could, if I felt like my feelings were hurt, I could hold a grudge, and I can't. I forget to. I just forget to. I walk into the next room. 10 minutes later, I come back and I look at like my son, for example, and I'm going, I know I should probably be mad at you, but I forgot. So I'm not. Um, and this is one of the most observed effects of FLFE is it it helps everyone in the field to maintain a higher level of peace and integrity with that peace. So FLFE is such a big story. We've talked about it. And I can only encourage everyone to give it a try. When you go to highconsciousnessfield.com, click on free trial, no credit cards, no nothing asked. You just get the experience of it. And it's tremendous. It's amazing, tremendously amazing. Okay, so questions. Here we go. I guess we're not at the end yet. I wear a FLFE object. The area where I wear it hurts. Could that be due to increased vibration? Only pain recently. I'm not quite sure. I can't answer that because I don't know what the FLFE object is, but the most common FLFE services are the home service, which puts your home on their service. A field is maintained in your home, or the object is usually a phone, but not because there's some frequency sent to the phone, but because the phone number serves as a unique identifier in the quantum field. So basically, it can be associated with your device because there's only one number like that in the world, and that serves as a quantum identifier. That's the only reason why they use a phone, and people carry it with them, right? So that's why but other than that, I don't know what kind of pain and if it comes from a phone, if that's the object. But if you have any kind of questions, they have the best customer service bar none. So give them a call, explain what's going on, and somebody will take the time to talk to you human to human, and probably give you much better answers on that than I could. All right. So again, for those who haven't given it a try, this has been a game changer, and I could talk about it for days. That's how much I love it. But better than talk is try it for yourself. Anywhere you are, you can try it. Highconsciousnessfield.com. click free trial, and you could experience it tonight, and then you can play with it. There's a portal. You can click on it, boost, no boost. Oh, Denise Winterbottom. Okay, well, we have to remove the comment, Denise, but she asks, what does my sweatshirt say? Oh, that's a whole different story, the white hat story, right? I talked about it before. But in a nutshell, we heard so much about white hats over the years, and people in the background, somewhere in the military and somewhere in the government, and secret groups that try to save the world, and they're doing good stuff. And whether that is true or not, there's always good people out there doing really, really good things. Sometimes in the shadows, yes. But we were sick and tired of the talk. And so that's cowboy is my spirit animal. So I put on that hat just to say people with good intentions, open and honestly, no bullshit, no secret something, no insider information, just people doing honest, good intentioned work with the people exist. So I just said, well, if that's the definition, then I am a white hat, and I'm not hiding that. And you are too. You're a white hat too. So that's how that came about. And then a while ago, Christine designed that, and I love it. The white hat shirt. It's a great conversation starter. I can tell you that. And so it's in our merch store if you want to get one or a hat. There's a white hat, not a cowboy hat yet, but we're working on that too. At store.theinspiredchannel.com. And thanks for your support, and thanks for the question too. All right, friends, I'm sending you much love, my fellow white hats, many blessings, and we will be back with you again very, very soon. Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy, but most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.